That was so awesome. We are live. I was going to close my door because my dog just opened it. This is how we do live video, folks. It's great to be here with you. I'm letting a few folks file in to the stream. And I should introduce myself. I'm Rob Walling. I'm the co-founder of TinySeed. And today, along with Tracy and Alex, we are going to be answering questions about our new Accelerator batches that we're running. You might be wondering, isn't this the MicroConf YouTube channel? In fact, it is. TinySeed is the funding and accelerator arm of MicroConf. So what we discovered over years of building MicroConf is that different founders, different bootstrapped and mostly bootstrapped founders, have different needs and desires. So some folks want mastermind matching. And for those, we have MicroConf Mastermind Matching. Some folks want in-person events, which we offer. Some folks want only online community, which we offer. And other folks were asking for bootstrapper-friendly funding and mentorship and guidance. And so about 5 years ago now, almost 6 years ago now, we announced TinySeed. So I like to think of TinySeed and MicroConf as sister companies, or TinySeed being the funding and accelerator arm of MicroConf. If you have questions, I imagine that's why you're here. You can head to tinyseed.com/FAQ or tinyseed.com/program to check out information about our program. But if you're here, I'm guessing you've already read through those URLs and all the stuff we have there, and you have questions in addition to that. If you have questions in addition, go ahead and feel free to post them in the YouTube live chat. We have assistant producer Dan, who's monitoring that. You can also post to, I believe, LinkedIn and Twitter. We're live. We'll be monitoring all the channels, so they'll bring it into a single place for us. But you can post those now as we, again, let people file in and give you a kind of a brief overview of the program, and then we'll dive in to your questions. Before we do that, I'd love to call MicroConf's TinySeed's US Program Director and Principal, Tracy Osborn, to join me on the stream.
Yay! I'm
Good
so happy
morning.
to be here. I was like oddly nervous about this one for some reason. This is what, our 8th live stream that we've done. I don't know if that's actually true, but it feels like it's gotten to that point.
Yep. And these are always amazing because we always think there's not going to be any questions. And then we have a solid hour of questions that we run through. So
and they're always a little bit different. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Someone asked me yesterday on Twitter, because I tweeted that we were doing this, and they said, what type of questions do you respond to? And I was like, oh my God, how do I even summarize that? It's like everything across the board. So with that, Tracy, thanks for joining me. And I'm going to bring our European program director, our EMEA program director, onto the live stream. Alex McQuade, thanks for joining us.
Hey there. I feel like I should make a grand entrance like you, Rob. Just a little pop up.
Did you like that?
I liked it. I didn't see it coming.
My door's still open. I'm just anyways. So yeah, we're super excited to be opening applications for our spring 2024 batches. We run a batch in the Americas time zone. So obviously that's Canada, it's North America, South America. And we even sometimes fund folks outside of those regions if they want to meet up on those time zones. And then we have our EMEA batch, which again is going to be Europe, Middle East, Africa time zones. And applications are already open. It is Wednesday today. They've been open since Monday, and they're open for about another week and a half or so. With that, let me kick it to Tracy. You want to talk a little bit about the program, what people should expect from it?
Yeah, I love the fact that you mentioned the two different accelerator arms. They are one of the questions we often get is, what is the differences between these two? And really that the main difference is what Rob mentioned, is the difference in time zones of when we schedule those calls. Otherwise, the programs themselves are largely identical. And the program that covers both of those batches is a year-long remote SaaS accelerator program. We kind of mostly focus on B2B SaaS. And over that year, folks in TinySeed will get what we call our playbook in the first 3 or so months of the year, where we go over the big things that every SaaS company has to go through. Then we roll into mentor calls. We have a huge community. We have all sorts of things that we do during that year. And then after that year, it actually kind of just continues on. We say it's a year-long program, but really the folks that we've funded 5 years ago, we're just as involved with them as we are with our current batches.
Amazing. And just recently we had our first big all TinySeed event. You want to talk about TinyFest?
Yes. I think that was a huge milestone for me because, we've been running events through MicroConf for so long. And I was just waiting for the moment where our TinySeed community grew large enough that we could have our a small exclusive event of our own. So that's what we did last January. Went to Cancun, which was really fun. We like to make sure that our events are always a little bit of a mix of work and play. We had a lot of families come out too, so that was great. We got to meet a lot of the founders' families. Some people brought their kids. We had some founders who flew in from Australia. We started off the days with talks from TinySeed founders talking about the things that they have implemented in their business that brought them big wins. We had a talk from mentor Laura Router talking about email marketing. And then we did things like going snorkeling and zip lining, a lot of other networking things to form connections between founders within TinySeed. So that was Tiny Fest. That was our first one. I'm really excited about the future years and the future Tiny Fest that we can run.
Yep.
Yeah, it was an incredible event.
Yeah.
Speaking of events, I wanted to hit a little bit about an important part of the TinySeed program, which is our kickoff retreats. So one of the highlights of the year for a lot of people is the kickoff retreat. And if you haven't heard a little bit about this, it's 2 to 3 days that we spend at the beginning of each batch, bringing together all the founders of the batch. You're able to meet the other ambitious co-founders who are going to be going through the year with you. We spend half the time working together, masterminding, digging into different aspects of your business. And then we spend part of the day getting to know each other, building relationships, because we've found that the relationships you build with the other people in the program are going to be assets that go on to support you for years down the line. And something we've learned, or not learned, but kind of really cemented recently is how important this event is and in-person time is. So some of you may have noticed, if you were studious and looking over changes to our pages, that we recently introduced a program fee. And this is kind of with a goal of addressing how important these in-person events are. So traditionally, it's been a little bit of a, how would you say, a la carte type. We'd have people choose what they wanted to do, book, pay. It was a little bit messy. And we decided moving forward that this is really a critical part of the program, and that we were going to bring it all under a nice, clean program fee that covers not only the kickoff retreat, but also a second opportunity to come together in the year with your batch at a microconf event. It includes hotel fees. And most importantly, the program fee, although it says program fee, it's going to be coming out of your funding, which we increase proportionally. So basically, the TLDR there is that everything is covered moving forward. You don't have to worry about really the cost.
This is us persuading, knowing how important in-person events are, and knowing how over the years we have seen those connections between the founders that meet in person. Those connections between them are stronger. The connections between them and us are stronger. And then the more of those connections that a founder has, there's a correlation with, I think, how well their company does, because people are more likely to ask for help. They're more likely to reach out to us to update us and utilize the resources with TinySeed. So we wanted to make those in-person events a no-brainer to come to.
All right. Questions are pouring in.
Oh God, there's so many.
We'll get to those in just a second. Alex, do you want to go through the application process?
Yeah, let me just briefly hit what the application process looks like for everybody in case you're curious, haven't applied yet. It's pretty straightforward. Starting, what are we at? Wednesday, Monday, applications are live. So you can go to tinyseed.com/apply and start filling out the application. It is purposely short and straight to the point. It really probably shouldn't take you more than 10 to 15 minutes on average if you know your numbers and have everything ready to go. We do this so that we're not wasting your time. We kind of know exactly what we need to get started, and then we'll continue the conversation from there. There's 3 stages you need to know about. First is the application you'll fill out. Then some applicants will move on to a second stage interview with Tracy or I, depending on your region. And then the final stage would be a call with Rob and Einar. And after that, we make final decisions. We try to keep everything moving as fast as possible, keep you updated. Yeah.
I think
Tracy?
I think everyone who has ever submitted an accelerator application out there or anything in venture capital, we try to be anti-VC. The kind of thing where you send a message or an application into the void, and then you're just waiting to hear back, and you never hear it back, and that's really frustrating. That is not us. We have Oggs and I are militant on making sure that everyone is responded to as fast as we can. Every application is responded to. We're probably gonna have a conversation with quite a few folks. So I just wanted to say that, I'm proud of how we've set up our communication system. And I think a lot of people are worried that we will, like their application will just go to avoid and no one will respond. And we will definitely respond and give a little bit of feedback, hopefully. And even if you don't make it in, and that's for hundreds of applications. So pretty proud of that. Yeah. It's not just like 5. Yeah.
We want to be communicative and as best we can, and we want to, I mean, there was a thread on Twitter the other day of someone saying, hey, I got rejected. And it says, we said it gently and tactfully, but like, don't apply again with this idea. And the reason is because we won't fund that type of idea. We are a B2B SaaS accelerator. And if you're a two-sided marketplace, if you're one-time fees, if you're a consulting firm, like we just want to be upfront, like don't keep reapplying.
Yeah. Not that like, we'll get back in touch with you in a couple months. Maybe just hold on a little bit. Maybe someday that will, that's so annoying when you can't, when you just leave people in limbo.
Yeah. We just want to be honest. So when are decisions made, Alex? How quickly do we react and make offers to folks? You
can expect to. It kind of is varying depending on when we do our calls, but generally we start getting decisions out within a month. It can go a few more weeks past that, but we always keep you updated. So it's going to take a little bit longer. You'll get an email like updating you.
Within a month of application start. So there's 2 weeks of applications. At the end of those 2 weeks, we really launch into the next 2 weeks of evaluation. And then after those 2 weeks, that's when we start sending out initial responses.
Yep. And other big deadline to remember is that applications are open for 2 weeks. So that means they are closing at midnight on February 25th. That is a Sunday.
Yeah. If you miss it, the next application season will be in September. So about 6 months from now. So if you are in a particular good moment in your business, or even not a good moment in your business, if you don't apply now, it'll be a while before we open applications again.
And with that, let's dive in to our first question. It's from Khaled on YouTube. Do you invest in pre-revenue startups? We do not. I believe we invested in maybe 2 in our very first batch as we were kind of figuring out what we were doing. What we found is that we are not able to help you as much with our playbook. The playbook applies to a company with revenue and preferably like some loose product market fit. And what is that range? 1K MRR up to 40K MRR maybe? I mean, I think we funded somebody at $800. It's like there are exceptions, but like
800,000, not $800. Yeah.
I was saying 800 MRR.
Oh, 800.
That's the lowest end.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I thought you were doing high end.
Yeah. No, we have accepted folks doing 100K MRR. That's the top end. I'd say the main range is about 2K to 40 or 50K MRR. Each batch, but you can apply for below or above that as long as you have at least 500 MRR. I would encourage you. And if you don't have revenue now, that's why we have another application process in 6 months. Get to revenue, get to the further along you are, the more traction it shows us. A, the business has more traction, and B, you're a founder who can ship and get things done. And those are the founders we like to invest in. As I like to say, revenue is the best slide deck. All right. Dylan from YouTube asks, for Latin American/Caribbean-based SaaS businesses, do you provide extensive help with getting the company set up as a US-based entity to receive funding from the program? Alex, Tracy, who wants to weigh in on that?
That is, yeah. So Latin American startups generally join the Americas batch with me. The word extensive, I'm not sure if that would apply. But we do have resources internally in terms of helping people reach it. Like we have a set of lawyers that we recommend that people can reach out to. They're not on our payroll. We want to make sure that folks have representation that represents them only. So there's no sorts of conflict between, say if we hook them up with our lawyer, obviously that our lawyer is the one who's going to be promoting TinySeed's interest the most. And so you want to have someone on your own side. So we have resources that set people up with representation. We have resources in terms of like how to go through some of those processes of changing into those entities. We also have quite a few Latin American startups that they'll information share. So we have people in Brazil, Uruguay, Chile,
Costa Rica.
I'm missing through Costa Rica, Mexico, Yeah, so we have a lot of coverage within Latin America that there are founders there that have been dealing with local laws and have a lot of information on how that worked for them that we can refer people over to.
I like to think of it as we will point you in the direction of resources and we will say, here's something that can help you incorporate, but we cannot do that for you. We actually would take on liability if we make a specific, do this setup. Then if 5 years from now that setup doesn't work, it would come back on us. So we actually really can't, for liability purposes, do it for you or even give you a concrete recommendation other than go talk to the other founders in the batch. But there's a lot of resources available. As a founder, you have to dig in, you have to get your hands dirty and get it done. Task Quark on YouTube asks, is it fine for an EMEA candidate to be organized as a US LLC, or do you prefer a European company for EMEA investments? Alex?
Yep, that is no problem. Although I would say we do prefer US Delaware C Corp, but we can work with you on that. But I guess the main point of this question that I'd want to hit on is you do not need to be incorporated necessarily in an EMEA country to apply for the EMEA program. If you're trying to decide which program you should apply for, you should base it on where you are physically located. The main difference between the programs is convenience and time zones. So if you are located in Europe, you're going to want to apply for the EMEA program because our calls are going to be more set up for you. Our kickoff retreat is going to be closer to you. It's going to be most likely in Europe. So that's how you should make that decision, not the incorporation. We'll work with you on that. No big deal.
Robert on YouTube asks, how much equity does TinySeed get for the accelerator? And I will point folks to tinyseed.com/FAQ, and you can see all of our terms there. But to summarize, we invest between 100 and about 220, 250,000 per company for between 10 and 12% equity. That's the short answer. And it depends. You might ask, well, why the range? Well, we've funded people doing 1K MRR. We've funded people doing 100K MRR. So you would imagine there has to be a difference between those. Dealan on YouTube asks, does a SaaS have to have global impact to be accepted in the TinySeed program? Or could it be specific to a particular region, particularly the Caribbean? Tracy makes on Twitter. Would you like to take that one?
We like local businesses. I mean, obviously, if there should be a path, I think, to expansion. We want to know that in the future you are able to break through. I don't know if it's just like your certain region, there's going to be a cap on there. At some point, you'll probably want to expand outwards. But for example, I have Maui in our the fall 2023 batch. They are in Costa Rica. They work with, I believe they're just focused in Costa Rica right now, local construction firms. It's software for contractors and construction firms in that area. I know that their plans are probably to expand throughout Latin America. So we know that they're locally focused now, but they were planning to expand. And so that's kind of what we're looking for. Is just like, do you have the potential to grow to a really large company?
That's right. Yeah.
It's something
we kind of think like, can you become a million or multi-million-dollar ARR company? Mm-hmm. And whether it's the current iteration or sometimes it's like we back folks who are in a particular niche and we're like, this niche is going to top out at a few $100,000, but what's the path to getting to 1, 5, 10 million in ARR? Maui is a great example. It's mawi.io if folks want to check them out, but they are currently focused local and they're doing great. And if you were doing that in the Caribbean, we definitely give you a second look. Alex?
Yeah, I was just going to say I sometimes get the opposite of this question I wanted to hit on. If for example, you are in EMEA, should I be worried if I cater to a US target demographic, for example? And my answer would be no, that's absolutely fine. There's plenty of people in the EMEA program who focus on US customers, or on the other end, people in the Americas program who focus on a different region. The program itself is not location focused. So the advice we're giving is not, in the EMEA program, is not going to be focused specifically on Europe or anything. It's going to be the same advice, the same applicable advice that you'd get in both programs. It's region agnostic.
We care a lot more about the business itself and the revenue and churn. Like high churn is not a good sign. Lifetime value, how much you can charge. Are the founders, easy to work with, ambitious? but it's like there's all these little things that we just kind of don't care about. Like if you were to come and say, so I've written my app in Java or C#.net, do you care? I don't know. Are people paying you tens of thousands of dollars a month? Then I want to talk to you. You know what I mean? It's like these things that seem really important are actually less relevant. Now, if you're really buggy and you have a bunch of 1-star reviews because you're in C#.net or you have a bunch of bugs or whatever, then that's another issue.
Yeah, kind of related is like I get a lot of questions during the application process of like, we want to show your deck. People want to show me their deck, and their deck is usually so future focused where it's like, all right, in 15 years, we'll be doing this and blah, 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 which is awesome to see that they have some, progress in that direction. But who knows what's going to happen between now and then? And actually, it's probably that vision that you have is actually going to be very different as you're, going through the trenches and working on things. You're probably going to pivot and things are going to update and whatnot. So a lot of the stuff that we do in that application is like, are people paying you right now? And that's a really great sign for the founders, the business idea. It's why we have those metrics on that application.
Mike from YouTube asks, how do you think about non-technical founders? I have a revenue-generating MVP using no-code workflows. Eventually, I would like a technical founder. So I believe of the companies we funded, probably 85%, if I were to throw a number at it, have at least one technical founder, meaning a developer who is writing code. So we have funded folks who don't have a technical founder. The issue we've seen, having funded now 151 companies, is that the folks without technical founders, they do struggle on the tech side. No matter how senior they hire, they continue to run into issues, and it becomes this kind of anchor around their neck. What I won't say, that's not like a conclusion, right? It's gray. It's not black or white. Would we fund someone without a technical founder? Absolutely. If you have a great business, if people are paying you, if it's growing, if it's an obvious niche, if whatever. Would we fund a no-code MVP? I would certainly consider it. It just depends. It depends on the detail, like how big is it? How complicated is it? How much MRR do you have? As well as I would think to myself as a former developer or current hobbyist developer, like how long will this take to rebuild? How hard will this be? And would I maybe say, we'll fund you now? Or would I say, go find a technical co-founder, rewrite this, and then like get in touch with us. You may not even have to reapply. You could just like back channel and like get in touch if this is rewritten and you have the same thing. So there's nuance to it, right? We are humans on this side. We're not computers like doing AI analysis of things. It's kind of, there's some, it depends. But the answer to your question is, yeah, we would totally consider it.
We're just going to ask you questions.
Yeah.
Be prepared to answer the questions.
Right.
Or get that context in your application.
Yeah, or give it there. Every business that we fund has some risk to it. Every single one. And sometimes there's technical risk. Sometimes there's market risk. Sometimes there's execution risk. Sometimes it's the founders that was like, everything's great, but man, I think the founders are going to just maybe run this into the ground or not making great. Like there's always a risk that someone or something falls apart. And that's what nothing is perfect. None of the businesses we fund are perfect. And so we're just trying to figure out where are the edges, where are the yellow flags. And then let's try to hopefully help guide you to not make, the mistakes that we see folks making. So thanks for that question, Mike. I appreciate it. Dylan on YouTube asks, once accepted into the program, are all team members expected to work full-time on the business? Tracy, since this is coming to us from
nodding.
The Caribbean. Yeah.
Nodding.
All founders.
Yes.
Right?
Not necessarily all team members. Yeah.
You could hire a part-time contractor or freelancer, but if you qualify as a founder, meaning you own at least 15% of the company, right? And you're participating in the program full-time.
Yeah, we see people, part-time extends your runway. It is a huge distraction. It is not worth that risk. Your company you might be like, oh yeah, I'm still working half-time on this, but no, we see there's the situations that we've seen in the past, which is why we're like really emphatic on this now, where our folks become distracted by something and it's just their company starts floundering a little bit. So we really want people to, that investment is hopefully to help you and your founding team to go full time. And then it's there to support you, hopefully get you to the point where you're supporting yourself and you can have your full time attention on the business that we invested in.
And we've seen it over and over, folks, inside and outside of TinySeed. Someone focusing half time on their startup, just not making progress, and then they focus full time. And the thing takes off. And that's why we give you funding. The purpose of our funding, because let's say we could do no funding and we could just give you, a lot of TinySeed companies tell us, the most valuable part is the mentorship, the community, being in the batch, the Slack channel, the meetups, the mastermind, it's advice from Rob and from the mentors and everybody else. We could give all that without funding, but guess what? We'd have founders who couldn't go full time because they couldn't afford to. And that's the reason that we give you funding, is so you can go full time.
Yeah, I'd like to say that, there's a lot of things we can do to help boost your business, but when it's also really fun to see the growth trajectory of a business pre-TinySeed, when they're part-time, and just by going full-time, to just watch that growth trajectory take off.
Next question is from Courtroom 5 on YouTube. Are B2C SaaS companies eligible? Ooh, can I tee? I'm gonna weigh in on this, and then y'all, Tracy, Alex, tell me if I got it right. All right, so there are very few B2C SaaS companies, to be honest. If you are targeting, let's say, professional photographers, or let's just say professional photographers, I would say that's a prosumer app, and we would, and if in doubt, fill it out, and we would at least consider it. What we're going to look at instantly when I think, it's kind of a hobbyist prosumer thing, I'm going to look at what's your churn and what's the price sensitivity. Because if you're charging $9 a month, $14 a month, $20 a month, and your churn is 10%, it's unfortunate, but that's just not a viable business for us to invest in. That may be a nice 5-10K a month business, but with churn like that, your business is essentially on fire. So will we invest in direct B2C if you truly are selling to individual Dungeons and Dragons players? I play D&D. These are my coasters right here that I just got off Etsy with maps. So I would say I will probably be a customer, but I won't invest in that business. I just know how hard it is to grow a true B2C SaaS.
Yeah, and I like to tell founders too that this is also more fair to you as well. I think a B2C founder just wouldn't get the value out of the program that they deserve.
Yeah.
The program is built specifically for B2B companies. Our education, our mentorship, it all revolves around that business model, which is different. And so for that reason, I wouldn't recommend it. You too should be getting value out of the program, and that's what we want.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All the playbook, because when we talk about doing cold outreach and going to in-person events with a high lifetime, it's like you're going to be like, none of this applies to me. So why did you join?
Yeah,
it's not fair.
The way you grow is totally different, and we don't focus on that.
Our next question is from Elliot on LinkedIn. I started selling lifetime deals yesterday to our pre-launch list, and I have sold $1,100. Would this be sufficient to apply? We plan to launch the product in 2 months, but currently we are a marketing site with pre-launch registration and a lifetime deal. Tracy or Alex, who wants to take this?
Ooh.
I feel like, go Alex.
I would say no, if I'm being honest. Of course, when in doubt, fill it out. We're not gonna, if you want to fill out, put yourself on our radar. So for next round, as you get more revenue, it makes sense. But in my mind, a lifetime deal isn't MRR. We're specifically looking to see that you have traction with reoccurring revenue. It sounds like you're on the way, you're almost there. And that in 6 months when we launch the fall batch, that would be great timing for you.
I would say the same. Lifetime deals, unfortunately,
I was waiting for Rob on this.
Just in general. Yeah, it's like there's rare exceptions if you really need the cash. They just don't prove much. Is unfortunate. Like they don't prove much market traction. What proves
the customers are very different than your future customers. That will be on, like, say, a recurring revenue model.
Right. But thanks for that question, Elliot. Obviously, if you're going to launch in a couple months, 6 months from now, our fall application should be great for you. It should be
perfect timing.
Yeah, if you make it. Mike on YouTube asks, can you apply if you are not yet incorporated? Yes, if you have a business, if you have revenue coming in. So in the US, I believe it goes to your Schedule C. And I was a sole proprietor having revenue coming in for years before I became an LLC. Like 5 years I was doing consulting, eventually making 6 figures a year. And it was going to my Schedule C. And my accountant was like, you need some type of corporation to house this both liability-wise, but also tax-wise. So yes, if you have revenue, if you have kind of the business that we're describing and you just don't have a corporation, we have some resources that can help you get set up as well as recommendations.
Yep. You'll do that before we close, but we'll move forward as well.
That's right. Excuse me if I mispronounce your name, but it's Maher on YouTube. We used to make more than $500 US of MRR. but the devaluation of the currency, oh no, has dropped us to around 400 USD. Would we be considered, Alex? What do you think?
When in doubt, fill it out. But I will say that most likely not. It's hard to say without seeing the application, of course, without the context. But go in knowing that it's not as likely. We do say 500 is the minimum to apply. I will say 500 is a little bit of a tougher area. It's not. It's more special cases that have it's more once you get to a little higher of an MRR where you start to become more competitive. But that's not to say it's not out of the realm of possibility. So feel free to apply. We'd love to see it. And at the very least, it lets us keep in touch with you and follow up on the next round.
Yeah, we see history. The applications we have internal tools to tie applications together. And actually, it's a huge bonus when we see multiple applications submitted. Like, I don't want to, make people sad with rejections over time, but a lot of people, as we were encouraged, when in doubt, fill it out. But, if we can see at some point they were at 400 MRR. And then they were at 1,200 MRR. And then the next round, they are something at 3,400 MRR. That is such a compelling case. It is so compelling. I'm not going to say it's like a huge, like the number one bonus for the application, but it's such a, it's so great to see that history over time applying to TinySeed. And I know that I pay extra special attention to those applications.
We have funded many companies who have applied 2, 3, or 4 times. I think that was our record for. And so
we love reapplications.
I think that was Cloud Forecast. I think there was a on Starts the Rest of Us or Microconf YouTube. I can't remember which one, but you did an interview with Tony Chan and he was talking about applying 4 times. So people want to look that up. That's a great one to listen to.
Ali on YouTube asks, I am starting my SaaS startup from scratch. The idea is promising. Do you have any suggestions? Additionally, I plan to hire employees using my monthly income. Any insights? I would recommend, honestly, if you're starting out, listen to Startups for the Rest of Us. Go to Microconf YouTube, which is where you are now, I think, microconf.com/YouTube. And like my books that are $10 each, Start Small, Stay Small, and the SaaS Playbook. Like this is what this sold just across 20,000 copies sold. Like the whole point of everything that we put out for mostly free, I'll say, because I consider a $10 Kindle book essentially free, but all the stuff we put out for free is to help folks like you get started. That's our mission, is to multiply the number of independent, self-sustaining startups in the world. And you're one of them. Welcome. It's good to have you here. And you belong here as much as anyone else. I know we talk about revenue and we talk about MRR and all this stuff. That's just what TinySeed needs to focus on in order to be a viable fund. And so we can continue to fund companies decades into the future. But you belong here as well. And so I'm glad to have you. Head to microconf.com, startupsforrestofus.com, microconf.com/YouTube. Like, we have hundreds and hundreds of hours. Someone actually pulled all my transcripts from YouTube and Startups for the Rest of Us of me talking. And they said, you have spoken 1 million words. Because they were building an AI bot. And he said, you've spoken 1 million words. And I was like,
Rob bot.
Wow. Yeah. So thanks for the question. And that's exactly what I'd be doing, Ali.
Yeah. Become an information sponge.
Yep. Especially don't go all over Twitter and listen to 20 different people. Pick somebody that resonates with you. And maybe it is Microconf in my advice. And maybe it's someone else. Maybe you're like Ruben Gomez or Craig Hewitt or Jason Cohen or whatever. Pick somebody who is where you want to be and who has traveled the path in the way you want to travel it. And then sponge up all their information and do the best you can and ship. All right, Full Stack Founders on YouTube asks, do you consider SaaS companies that are built on top of other platforms like a Shopify app, or do you only invest in standalone SaaS startups? What do you think, Tracy?
There's a good blog post on the TinySeed blog, and it says what are the best fit startups for TinySeed, and we cover folks with platform risk, which is folks that are built on Shopify or other platforms. We have invested in companies like that. We are going to ask you about platform risk and what you do if your platform shuts down or something else happens. So have a good answer for that. I would say that there's pitfalls that we want to make sure that you are aware about and you are working to, you have processes in place in case they hit.
Yeah, this comes back to my no startup is perfect. We try to find the yellow flags. Platform risk is a big yellow flag. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality. And I've seen multiple multi-million dollar businesses effectively go to zero because the platform hosts them. Yeah, it's tough.
Which sucks.
I know.
It's like you did so much good work, and then the platform's like,
I was going to buy a second house, and then this one went to, no, I'm only partially joking. All right. Saw it on YouTube asks, do you have to leave your day job if you get selected? That's my main concern. I like my day job, and I think I can manage serious growth for my SaaS alongside it. What do you guys think? You have to leave the day job.
Yes.
Alex,
Yeah.
Summary.
you have to leave.
There's
Yeah, at least one founder needs to be full-time. I think
you have
Tracy hit it great.
Yeah, you
earlier,
have serious growth, but how big would your growth be with full-time focus? Like, it's going to be better.
It would be more.
And you're coming into TinySeed specifically, you are going to be you're going to be receiving so much information, so much actionable feedback that I think it's going to be a different level than you're at right now. That's kind of part of the purpose, is that you're receiving this mentorship that's pointing in the right direction. I think you'll find that the amount of things you're going to want to do that can grow the business is going to increase significantly. And that's why we find someone being full-time is necessary. It's a lot.
Yeah, and honestly, it's like you're growing within TinySeed, it's already a little distracting, and hopefully distracting in a good way, because they're throwing so much information at you. But you'll be juggling growing your business, but also watching our calls and asking questions and being connected to mentors. And so there's already kind of a side project of just attending TinySeed in addition to growing your business, and doing that in addition to a full-time job, especially taking up 40 plus hours a week would be very, very hard.
Yep. In our offer letter, we say you need to go full time. So thanks for asking that. Dylan on YouTube asks, what's the best way to start building a history while still being in the customer validation stage with the goal of applying for the next fall cohort? I can't think of any. I think just apply in the fall, show up to the next one. And unless Tracy, Alex, you can think of anything.
I mean, you could apply and
with zero MRR.
With zero, which we have a good number of companies, even though we're very clear about 500 being the MRR. I say just like apply if you want, and just be expected that you're going to get a rejection letter saying your MRR is too low for TinySeed. Put in your description about what you're doing, how you're validating, what's going on, and then 6 months later you apply again, and it's like, all right, here's how that experiment went. Here's what happened. Here's the things that won. I would love to hear those kind of things. I would love to see the process of you growing your company. You don't have to. It takes time. If you want to apply, again, with customer validation time, we know that is just applying to TinySeed is a distraction, but you could do that if you wanted. I don't want to say it's required, but I do like seeing that history.
Yeah. If you have a call with Tracy and I, we'll look back on that. We'll read it, and we'll use that as context for the conversation that we'll have. So it is useful.
Joel on YouTube asks, how early is too early? We're definitely meeting the MRR threshold, but revenue is crazy lumpy because I think we are on the near end of the product market fit spectrum. So I'd summarize that as maybe weaker product market fit or really early product market fit. If in doubt, fill it out. It's 10 or 15
Yeah, it's hard to answer that without having a full application.
I don't know. How early is too early? When it's
what are you focusing on? What is there's a lot of like different variables in there that that would go into our decision-making process as we are going through the application.
Yeah, I don't know that I have anything to add. I mean, we've had folks join TinySeed with like 2 customers, but those customers are each paying them $2,000 a month. So they have 4K MRR. And then we've had folks join with 100 customers, but they're only paying them $10 a month. So you have 1,000 MRR. And it's like, it just depends. It depends on the business, the niche, and a lot of other stuff. So hard to make a recommendation other than if you're in doubt, I would just fill it out. Spend the 15 minutes and then we will take a peek at it. So I appreciate that question, Joel. Jean-Pierre on LinkedIn asks, have you made any tweaks to the EMEA program? Almost every batch, huh, Alex? You want to weigh in on any?
I was going to say, to the EMEA program, sure. Also to the Americas program. Tracy and I make tweaks to the entire program every batch. We ask for feedback from every batch, and that feeds a lot of our decisions on how we improve the program over time. I can't think of a single batch where we haven't implemented some type of improvement, they're
not gigantic improvements, but we're always tweaking it in small ways to make it better. I would say like we got it 90% dialed in, and then it's just like constantly trying to improve that last 10%.
I'm going to mispronounce it. Smokinep. All right, on YouTube, have you guys seen any applicants applying from the Caribbean?
We don't have any portfolio companies in the Caribbean. I am struggling to think of a specific place. I'm sure
we
we
had
had
applicants from
Yeah.
140 countries. I mean, we've had from a lot of countries around the world. Maybe not 140, maybe like 100. I mean, it's a lot. So I would guess yes, but it just depends, I guess.
If you are in the Caribbean, you should still apply, though.
You
if
should
that's
apply.
The, what you're
don't
getting
let
at.
that
Yeah.
right. Don't let that
Yeah.
be just because whether no one's done it or 100 people have done it. Just do it. If
hopefully
you're out and you fit what we have, apply.
And if we have another Tiny Fest in Cancun, hopefully that'll be an easy enough flight for you.
Yeah,
you make it over.
Right. Abhishek on YouTube. As all categories have massive competition today, I disagree with the premise of that question, but I'm going to keep reading it. As all categories have massive competition today, why do you think a new SaaS app will succeed? Let's say a niche CRM or a marketing automation tool, et cetera, et cetera. Alex and Tracy, why do we think a new SaaS app will succeed? Because we continue to fund, 50 or 60 SaaS apps every year, and we see them succeeding.
Competition is a good thing. It shows that there's people buying things within your niche and that there's a need for what you're building. So like competition shouldn't deter you. And then, the companies that you are competing against, is there a way that you can improve off of what they're doing? What is it? SavvyCal launched, and the one in the category
2019, 2020,
Calendly was the big one in the area. Everyone was like, "Oh, you have to have Calendly." It was just no, that Calendly was the way to go. And Derek launched SavvyCal, improving upon the things on Calendly, and that huge competition in that niche. And Derek has been with SavvyCal doing really, really well, and we're really happy to have invested in him.
Signwell, electronic signature. There was already HelloSign, DocuSign, and 20 others. I built Drip. There were already 350 different marketing or email marketing automation providers. Built that into a multi-million-dollar company. On and on and on. Why do I think it can succeed? Because it can. Because you can. All right. Jean-Pierre on LinkedIn. And I think this might be our last question.
Ooh.
Get him in, because we'll answer this one and then see if there's any more, and then we'll head out. Jean-Pierre on LinkedIn, how do you feel about part-time co-founders in the early stages? Is it a red flag? One co-founder is full-time and the other is part-time purely due to cash flow.
We see that a lot. Yeah. Do you have a plan for when that co-founder is going to go full-time? Do you have a MRR revenue level where you know that that's the point in which that other person can go full-time? That's what I would want to know.
Yeah. And the question here is whether you're still, you should apply for TinySeed. The answer is yes. As long as one of you is full-time, that'll be fine. Like Tracy said, we'll have follow-up questions, but that won't be an issue.
Festazul on YouTube asks, we have an app that automates what many consultancies do manually for clients, charging hundreds of thousands per year. There are tens of millions in the ecosystem without product market fit, and I'm just going to assume pre-revenue, but without product market fit, would we be considered? So most applicants to us are automating something that is high value for a large market. So no. That's anyone? Anyone?
I mean, it's
I think
if
it's
you're pre-revenue,
straightforward.
it doesn't. Big market, a lot of potential. That's great, but you do have to show that you can build the software. You have to show that you, as the founders, can ship it. You have to prove that they in fact need this, right? That's a thing. You can have an opinion. I had an opinion on the early days of some of my apps, and I'm like, everyone needs this. It's going to be great, and I'd launch it to crickets. So until someone's paying you and growing, is that my mic? Someone's mic is humming. Anyways, until you prove that, it's just unfortunately usually too risky for us. All right. I think that's our last question for today. Applications close February 25th, tinyseed.com/apply. I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for another question to appear in the doc, but there aren't any. This is the first time ever that we have ended before. We always go to the top of the hour. It's just packed with questions.
We do.
I try so hard to get all of our information on the website. And so I consider this a good thing. A lot of times I do interviews and people ask me, or always at the end of my interview, I say, all right, we have 10 minutes for questions from you. Because the interview is not just me asking questions for them. I want to share information about TinySeed and answer all those questions during that process. But now I've gotten to a point of like 80% of the interviews I have, people say they have no questions. And that's a huge personal win for me, because that means that we have put the information out where people can find it.
On that note, though, if you do think of a question after this call, please send us an email at hello@tinyseed.com. I'm usually the one answering it, so you get to chat with me, and we're always happy to take more questions. Feel free to send them over.
Yeah, and folks might think, oh, TinySeed, it's this huge company. There's like 30, 40 people, and the minions are out answering questions. It's like, no, it's the three of us plus Einar as a co-GP with me, and we have an operations person. And then producer Ron, we borrow, and assistant producer Dan, who are running the show today, we borrow from Microcom for things like that. Like, that's it. I mean, the team is 5 people, 6 people. So it's like what you see is what you get with us. We are a highly efficient team, much of like a startup ourselves. And so, yeah, it's great to see everybody here on the stream. tinyseed.com/apply if you're interested. Tracy and Alex, thanks so much for joining me today.
It's been fun.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. And we hope to see your application, or we will see you in the next live stream. Thanks, y'all.